I'll pass it to Ivan to start us off with an introduction.
Cool. Tēnā koutou katoa, he mihi mahana kia koutou, ko kahurana ki tuku maunga, ko naruroro tuku awa, ko takitumu tuku waka, ko kahurana ki tuku maunga, ko Ngāti Kahanunu tuku iwi, ko Heretaunga tuku tūranga waiwai, ko Vānhapi ki Lambert tuku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa. So first and foremost, just want to welcome everyone here today for our Q&A session. It's great to see you all here and really looking forward to having a chat about what we do with the Sport New Zealand graduate program. I'd now like to pass it over to Lily to introduce herself.
Kia ora koutou. So I'm Lily and I'm one of the graduates. I studied geography and cultural anthropology at Victoria, so not your usual degree pathway for a sports sector role, so that's something to think about if you're wondering if you're in the wrong place. You're definitely not. A little bit about me and my interests. I love all things people and culture, and I'm a real advocate for diversity. I've been playing football since I was about 8 or 9 years old. Love the whole team element that comes with playing a sport. I'm also a musician, so I sing and I'm real into the music scene. And I have a cat who's 12 now, and I have a nephew who's 5, and I feel like he keeps me young, keeps me up with the youth. And yeah, I'm really excited to answer your questions today, and I'll pass over to Libby to introduce herself.
Kia ora everyone, I'm Libby. I'm one of the grads this year. I'm originally from Timaru, so grew up in Timaru, playing lots of sport, and naturally thought that the next move for me would be to go to uni to study sport. So I went to Otago Uni and studied sport development and management. And then at the end of that was a 3-year undergrad degree. And at the end of that, I studied a 1-year coursework master's in sport development and management again. And that finished with a internship at Sport Canterbury. And then I worked, that finished in March, right in time for lockdown. So I wasn't working throughout lockdown, and that was really kind of hard for me, kind of second guessing everything. And then this graduate program popped up again, which I was kind of not expecting after the COVID time. So I was really, really excited. It has been a goal of mine for a couple of years. So I applied for that and was lucky enough to get through. So living in Wellington now, so missing my whānau who are back home, but kind of settling in, and it's been a really awesome experience so far, and I feel really lucky to have met everyone, especially Lily and Ivan. So it's been great. And outside of work, I love to keep active, go to the gym, go on trail walks, and I enjoy cocktails on a Saturday night. So that's kind of been something that I didn't really do a lot of in Timaru, so it's my new favourite hobby in Wellington. So I'll pass it over to Ivan to introduce himself.
So kia ora, my name is Vānhapi ki Lambert. Born and bred from Hawke's Bay, and so growing up, sport and physical activity was a huge thing in my family. I have a big family, so we used to do that all the time. And as I got to high school, not only did I play, I also coached. And I really enjoyed that, working with younger kids and giving off the skills that I had learned, passing that down. Originally, I always saw myself becoming a teacher. So I ended up studying at AUT, doing a bachelor's degree in sport and recreation with a double major in coaching and health and PE. And naturally, I thought I would end up being a teacher, but in 2015, I was fortunate enough to go to a coaching conference run by Sport New Zealand, where I was introduced to the graduate program, and I met one of the alumni, Glenn, who told me about the program, and it's always been in the back of my mind. And last year, with COVID and everything, I had planned to move overseas, but that had changed. And then it was just perfect timing that I saw the advertisement pop up, and I thought, why not give it a go? And here I am now. So that's a little bit about myself.
We're just going to go through some slides that we've prepared to kind of explain the graduate experience and kind of the application process. So this recording will be available after the session for you to go back through and review if you want, but we will also make these slides available for you. So you don't have to kind of jot everything down and rush to get it all through. So we'll just kind of run through those.
Awesome. So we'll start off with a brief overview, as I'm sure you all know the process of the grad experience. But so we have the recruitment process, and if you're successful in that, there's a grad network forum where you meet all the former grads and the current grads, and it's a really awesome event to get to know everyone and to get comfortable in the situation. In your first year in the role, you will be placed within a team and you'll be exposed to heaps of different areas within the sector and within Sport New Zealand itself. You'll get to design your own work plan and lead a bunch of different projects depending on what you're interested in. In your second year, you will do 2 placements, so it could be anything within the sector or with relevance to the strategy. And then hopefully by the end of it, you'll be out in the real world with some awesome sector experience and a passion to move forward into a career.
So one of the main questions we've been getting so far is what we're looking for in a graduate. So we're really open and honest about kind of the things that will make your application stand out and kind of the qualities, knowledge and skills that we're looking for in graduates. So this is really it right here. So I really encourage you all to take note of each of these kind of 5 main points and be able to touch on those in some way in your cover letter. So that will really make you appear as though you've been prepared, and it's also what we're looking for, kind of how you're able to speak to each of these points. So leadership potential, qualifications, studies, uni, knowledge and passion. So as much as knowledge is important about the sector, also showing your drive and your willingness to learn and develop in the sector is really important. Te tiriti o Waitangi, so your awareness and knowledge of Sport New Zealand's commitments to the Treaty of Waitangi. Communication and drive as well. So in some ways, verbal communication, how you're able to communicate all of the above, and also your ability to communicate with a range of different people. And then again, your drive and your kind of passion and keenness to be involved in the program and seeing it as kind of the great opportunity that it is. So yeah, really encourage you to focus on those, and when you're writing your cover letter, kind of reflect and check that you've kind of addressed all of those at some stage in your application.
Yeah, so one of the key things is how to apply. So if you go onto the Sport New Zealand website and go to careers, there will be a little link on the side that will talk about the graduate program. If you click on that, then it will have all the information on how to apply and a little bit more information on the graduate program itself. There's also a link that will highlight the former grads and current grads and have a little bit of backstory around them and what they got out of the program and what they're currently doing now. So here it is here. If you scroll on down, more around what we are looking for in a graduate, and a little bit more detail for you to understand. And then if you keep scrolling down to the bottom, it will have here where to apply, and it's also got a PDF on a little bit more information there. And so make sure that you click on apply, and we'll go into your CV and uploading your cover letter.
Make sure you have
this. Is this?
That's here.
Oh. So yes, so like I said, with the 3 things, we want to make sure that you have all 3 things. So you want to have your cover letter, CV, and your academic transcript. And keep note that applications close at 12 noon, so that's lunchtime on Wednesday the 26th of May.
Just a note as well, with applications this year, if you don't have all 3 of your academic transcript, your CV and your cover letter, you will automatically be kind of discounted. So really just making sure that in the initial application you have all 3. If somehow you kind of forget to include one, if applications are still open, you're able to submit a new application that has everything in that, but maybe just flick an email through to make that clear as well. But just, yeah, simple things, but really make sure that you have all of those included. So now we're going to go through to the Q&A part of the session. So as we mentioned before, if you want to use the chat icon to be able to type in your questions, we will keep an eye on those. And we have Sarai, who is from HR, and she is kind of coordinates the graduate program. So she is there. She just gave a wee wave, and she's going to keep an eye on these questions, and we'll kind of roll through them and answer them as best as we can. So feel free to start popping them through now if you would like. And for those people that have just joined, the preference is that you keep your mic on mute if possible and use the chat bar to ask any questions.
Awesome. Thank you guys for the introduction. That's wonderful. We're up to the exciting part where you guys to ask questions. If you've got any burning questions, do start using that chat on the side, and I will start filtering through them and asking them in a way to facilitate the questions. So one of my first points actually was just around how regionally dispersed we are. So you can probably see me online somewhere else. We've got Lily in one office, and then Libby and Ivana also in a different sort of space at the moment. So in terms of the ways that we work, we are regionally dispersed. So we are all based in Wellington, but we do have sort of working from home and those types of things as well. So I guess a good reflection or a question from me is in how much travel you guys have been exposed to so far within your short time. We're only in May now. How much travel has sort of been required of each of you so far? Yeah.
So for me, my travel's been a little bit. I've been off for the last month. I recently tore my ACL, so I've been off recovering from that. But beforehand, and even this week, we've done a lot of travel to different conferences and huis. I think we've been to about 3 or 4 now in the last 2-3 months, and actually in the next couple of months, we've got quite a lot happening. So it is quite a lot, and then even working from home nowadays, which has made it a lot easier for us sometimes when we are on the move.
Yeah, the travel really depends on the type of opportunities you want to engage in. So when an opportunity comes up for travel for me, I kind of discuss it with my mentor. So my mentor's Fran McEwen, she's Active Rec lead, so I'm in the Active Rec team. And so we kind of discuss it and work out if it's a priority for me, because if I've got a lot of project work on, then maybe I'll decide not to do as much travel for a couple of weeks. But if I've got a bit more space or capacity, then I do a bit more. But I have been traveling quite a bit and getting to meet a lot of people face to face, which is really awesome for making those kind of strong connections. So it has been quite a lot of travel so far. It's been really awesome.
Yeah, just to add to that, it's been really awesome having projects that have allowed me to travel as part of those work lines. So for a lot of external stakeholder engagement, we've been flying up to Auckland, as you would know, a lot of the national sports organisations are based up in Auckland, and a lot of big organisations are based up there. So it's easier to engage them when you go up and meet them in person. But at the same time, we are more conscious nowadays of our carbon footprint, and there is a carbon neutral plan underway for the organisation, which means that we do have a lot of those kind of multi-regional discussions and meetings online now. So it's definitely been a learning curve of the differences between the feel of an online meeting and a face-to-face in-person meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We've got one through from Ernestina. Beautiful name, by the way. Thank you for your question. Are we able to apply if we're partway through a relevant degree? If either three of you wanted to answer that, go for it. Otherwise, I'm happy to cover this one off. Yeah, cool. So our preference is that you will finish your degree before commencing. So you may still be studying this year. That's absolutely fine. But the intention is that you give your whole self to this program. So if you truly, really want to get the most out of it, it needs to sort of be your sole focus. Obviously, to have a social life and all those things as well. We want to support you in doing that. But a degree to us would be hopefully finished. It would be great if you did the 2 years and then you went on to do your master's or whatever else afterwards, but the preference would be that the 2 years would really be involved with the program. There can be situations where in the evenings you're asked to, go and attend seminars or really cool networking opportunities that these guys get involved with, and we wouldn't want you to have to make a decision between work and your studies as well. So our preference is that you've finished a degree or you're finishing this year with the ability to start in January of next year if possible. And there is a bit of leeway around the start. It may be February if January, for whatever reason, you've got things booked in as well, but around that beginning phase of 2022. So thank you for your question. We've got another one here from Chloe around international applications. I think this might be another one for me again. So in terms of the international applications, yes, we do welcome them as long as you've got sort of the relevant information. So if you go through into our Q&A page on the graduate site, right at the very bottom, there's a question that sort of answers around the international applications and what we're sort of looking for within those particularly. So do have a bit of a browse for that one in particular. So thank you for that. Just a question for the graduates. What are you enjoying the most about your time as a graduate? Yeah.
I'll kick that one off. So the thing that I've enjoyed it the most is getting to know everyone. So when I arrived, I have a few friends in Wellington already, but it was quite a daunting move for me. So on our first day, we had a mihi whakatau, so a welcoming into the organisation, and then everyone kind of introduced themselves, and then we had a morning tea. So we were able to get those informal introductions first before we kind of got stuck into work. So everyone's really supportive and kind at the office, which is huge. And then also the work that we're doing. So the projects that I've been involved in are kind of things that I'd always hoped and more. So the work that we've been involved in is kind of really dependent on the passions we have and the connections we want to make and how we want to develop ourselves. So I've been really enjoying, because of that, because it's so self-determined, it's all the work that we're involved in, or I'm involved in, is really enjoyable and really interesting to me. So yeah, that's been my highlight so far.
Yeah, I'm on the same wavelength actually. When I moved to Wellington, I don't know anyone, and coming into the organisation, having the mihi whakatau was a really great chance to have those informal chats and get to know everyone within the organisation, and everyone's really friendly and welcoming. So it's made it a lot more comfortable for me to be a part of the company. And then also, yeah, making the connections that we do with all our different projects. And it's not just within Sport New Zealand, it's also all our external partners has been really enjoyable, and to getting to understand the wider sports sector has been really cool.
Slightly different experience for me, as I am born and bred in Wellington, so there was no big scary move involved for me. But I would say the scary element was coming into a new space in a sector that I didn't have much experience or knowledge of. But I've really found that I've grown a lot in confidence and understanding of my own ability just in the few short months that we've been here already. And also it's been amazing to find out about all these things that are happening within the business and around the sector and around New Zealand that are really making a difference to young people's lives, and that I can really get involved in and help make a difference, which is really what I really want to do.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We've just had a question come through from Rebecca. So just wondering, what is the process after submitting your application, and what is the timeline for this? So my role within this program is to helping to run the recruitment process for that. As an individual, I'm a very flexible person, so I don't stick to a timeline as such. I like things to kind of flow naturally and organically. So applications obviously close, I think, on the 26th of May. And from there, we will go through a vigorous process with our graduates to shortlist those through. From that, we'll contact you directly, and you'll be asked to complete an online application. So you'll do sort of a face interview. We'll have a series of questions just to get to know you guys a little bit more. Normally, there's a wealth of individuals that go through to that phase, so it is sort of an online type situation. It follows then, if you do make through that round, into a formal interview, so you get to meet us in person. If you get through to that round, you then go through to a second interview. You may at that point get to meet a mentor, a possible mentor, or a coach that will be helping you in your first year. And then there's a final process after that around a presentation through to our CE as well, which is really cool. So on that point, actually, how did you guys find your presentation, or that final presentation, and your third piece of the puzzle in terms of your recruitment processes? Any reflections on that piece?
I'm happy to kick this one off. I found it that it was, on reflection, I actually did a lot better than I thought. And I think the main thing is just having that confidence and that self-belief that you can do a presentation. So I'm sure you've all had to do presentations through uni and through high school. And it's just having that belief in yourself that you've got great content on your slides and what you're saying, and you've got passions, and just focus on really putting across that passion that you have. As I remember saying at the end of my presentation that I was so nervous, and they said, "Oh, really? We couldn't tell," because because they thought I just breezed through it when I was shaking like a leaf. But it's really having that confidence, and you'll do fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it's quite funny actually. The first two interviews that we had, after both interviews, I kind of felt like I didn't do well enough to make it to the next stage. And it wasn't actually until I did my presentation that I actually felt quite confident in my ability. And I think the opportunity to actually stand up in front of the CE and in person to everyone made me feel a lot more confident in being able to back myself and explain what I'm trying to say. And because also there's no right or wrong to what you're saying. So I think our question last year was, how can the sports sector move forward from COVID? And so it was literally just us explaining our thoughts. And because I was so passionate about what I was saying, it became a lot more natural and I felt more confident in explaining it. So I think that is one of the key things if you make it to that stage, just being confident in your delivery and what you're saying, because that's really important.
Yeah, I was extremely nervous for mine. I ended up having, I think I had 2 days to prepare because it was a tighter turnaround, but that's purposeful, that there's a reason for that. And then also I had prior commitments on that meant that I couldn't prepare on the other days. So I was really nervous and tried really hard to kind of polish it well. And then when I got in there, the two mentors, so my mentor Fran and Yvonne's mentor Zara were in there, and they're smiling the whole time and they were really warm and bubbly, and kind of as soon as I got in the room I felt more relaxed. And I had cue cards, didn't read them at all, and at the end Pete, who was CE last year, he asked me why I had them and said that every graduate normally comes in with their cue cards and never reads them, so it's kind of like a safety net, but also really back yourself. And I tried to kind of intertwine. So I tried to show that I really understood Sport New Zealand's strategy and Sport New Zealand's values and intent and purpose, but also intertwine kind of my thoughts and my experiences into it so that I could kind of talk to the points and then relate it back to myself. And that also helped with my nerves, knowing that I knew the strategy well because I'd studied it so much throughout the process, but also being able to relate it back to me and know that I have that kind of within me, if that makes sense. So the presentation itself was actually really enjoyable, and then it's followed by a good hour almost, or 45 minutes of questions. So you also do have that opportunity to really show your knowledge and your personality after your presentation. So yeah, it's not as daunting as what it seems.
Awesome.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I've applied twice for the program, so I went all the way through to the final stage of the top 3 twice. So I think if there's any more questions that anybody has regarding how it feels or what to prepare in order to get through each of those 3 stages, I'm happy to answer those questions because I had to go through it twice. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. We've had a really good question come through from Abby, just around references. So written or verbal references required for applications, and if so, do you prefer them to be in a CV? So for that, we do verbal reference checks. So it's part of that process I was just talking about. As we get to sort of second interview stage, we'll start contacting your references. You don't have to put them inside of your CV yet, but when we get to that phase, we'll tap you on the shoulder and say, go out and reach out to them, let them know that we're going to be contacting them, and then you'll provide the information from there. So if it's not in the CV, those references, that's absolutely fine. We'll engage with you at the right stage to get them from you as well. So thank you for that question. Cool. Kent, what kind of projects are you guys involved with at the moment?
So the way that our projects work for us this year is that the mentors kind of engaged with the different teams across Sport New Zealand at the end of last year to propose projects that they might be working on, and then in December we were able to get kind of a list of potential projects. So I'm not sure if it'll be the same last year, but for us it meant that we could read through those, and then on our second day at Sport NZ we met all together and with all of our mentors and kind of indicated what we were interested in. And so in my first project was the National Play Workforce Hui. So I worked with the play team to kind of coordinate and the communications and the logistics for that, and that was a really awesome experience, really rewarding, and I got lots of connections out of that. I'm also working on the international travel project, so working with the Ministry of Health, the MBIE, and the MIQ system, so working, and the Olympic Committee, so working with them to kind of to get the Olympic athletes vaccinated and prepared for the games, and then working on how to get them home, so doing the phased return for that. So that's been really awesome. I've got to work quite closely with High Performance Sport and the New Zealand Olympic Committee, which has been great for making connections and kind of learning how to communicate in a really highly political environment. And then also the active recreation plan. So that's an internal plan that's launching soon. So I've been working with my mentor on forming that plan and also writing the board paper. So the projects that you get involved in are really up to you to determine what you're keen on and what skills and knowledge you want to develop, but also projects can be proposed at the start of the year, but they also come up during the year. So just making sure that you're communicating what areas you're interested in, and if someone says something that you think you might be keen on, just following that up, and normally there's an opportunity that comes out of that.
Yeah, so for me, some of the projects I'm in at the moment, so I'm based in the Healthy Active Learning team, which is a new initiative with the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health and Sport New Zealand, around promoting physical activity and healthy lifestyles within schools. So we work with RSTs across the country and promoting that in schools. And so I've been a part of that, and we're currently moving into phase 2, which we're looking at extending from our 300 schools to add 500 more on across the country. So I've been doing that, and also along with that, I've been working with the storytelling. So that's around going into schools or regions and basically sharing their story around how healthy active learning has impacted their school and their students. And then I'm also doing a little bit of work around the voice of rangatahi and voice of participants. So voice of rangatahi is where we work with school students who share their kind of thoughts on their sport and physical activity within their schools, and we survey that and then go back to the school and say, these are the results, how can we improve physical activity within your school? And that's, say, along the lines with voice of participants too, but that's more at a club level and sport level. So we work with club participants, and they survey to us what isn't working well, what is working well, and then we go back to the clubs and kind of show the information. So yeah.
Yeah, as Libby said, we've been exposed to a whole bunch of different projects. So I could list a lot of different things, but to name a couple of ones that people might find really interesting and a bit different is the Futures work, which Sport New Zealand has been undertaking. And it's actually on the Sport New Zealand website, the reports that were made over 2019 and 2020, where everyday New Zealanders were asked how they imagine the future of physical activity to be, and what they want to see in an ideal world where all barriers were removed. And it's a really amazing piece of work. It's really transformative. So we've been sort of circulating those findings to external partners and internally to hopefully put some of those things into action and really make it a way more equal and awesome space for everyone to be involved in. Another one is the women and girls space. So I've had, I'm started to get involved in a whole bunch of different areas there, including helping with the International Women and Girls Conference planning. There's the media side of the women and girls space. So there's a whole lot of research going on in the rangatahi space of what their experiences are in sport and active recreation. And also we've been engaging with a lot of the recipients of the active rec funding that we have. So those are companies like Wellington Off-Road and cricket and volleyball, and all different amazing organisations who are really looking out for young girls and making it a better experience for them.
Awesome, thank you. Quite quite a theme actually was the mention of mentors that you guys kind of talked about as well. So just a question around the role that your mentor plays in supporting each of you. And who is your mentor actually as well?
My mentor is Zara. My mentor is Zara Taylor, and she's part of the Healthy Active Learning team. And a big thing with Zara is that she works with me to work out my work plan and kind of helps me through that process. And also she's kind of someone that I can go to talk about just work in general. And then actually she's been really helpful because she actually offered her home for a little bit for me while I found a flat in Wellington. So she's been really helpful in that respect as well. So yeah.
My mentor is Fran McEwen, so she is the active recreation lead at Sport NZ. She's also the founder of the Shift Foundation, so she's really passionate about young people, specifically young women, and the equality of experience and kind of youth development approaches as well. So she's a creative thinker, kind of a bit of an innovator in that space. So she really challenges the way that I think, and I suppose have been taught to think about certain things in the sports sector. So I feel really grateful to have been paired with her, and the way she kind of supports me. So you sit next to your mentor in the office. The office is a big open plan. Everyone's in the same space, even Raylene Castle, the CE. So I can see her from my desk, which is really awesome. So I sit beside Fran, and kind of every morning we check in. She would text me about things in my personal life. We're quite close, so she checks in with me as a human, but also as a colleague. So I'm working with her on a project. So in that space, we kind of got to manage a relationship. But it really depends on who your mentor is and kind of the way you want to connect with them. So I like kind of to have that close, open relationship. So that's the way she supports me. And she also reached out to me before I moved to Wellington. So I had a couple of calls with her, and then she introduced me to our other member of our team, Junior. So I felt like I already knew some people before I moved up to Wellington. And they're also someone that you can turn to. So as Yvonne said, they're aware of your work plan. You work with them to formulate that and kind of prioritise the work you're doing. And she really keeps an eye on how I'm doing. So I have a tendency to kind of take on work. I love all these different opportunities, and I think I'll do that and I'll do that, and I'll work out how I'll get everything done later. So she really keeps an eye on kind of what I'm committing myself to, and kind of brings me back down to earth and helps me kind of really reflect on what I'm doing and why. And that's a really kind of helpful thing. So I think the mentor part of the program is awesome.
Yeah, so my mentor is Barbara Grieve, and she is the head of strategy and planning. And slight contrast there, she's probably towards the end of her career compared to the other two mentors who are still quite young, I would say. And so she's got like a wealth of knowledge of the public sector, and she's just like an expert on all things policy, strategy, government, and how to engage with external stakeholders is an amazing thing that she has perspective on. And she's quite independent in the way she works and in the way that she approaches my work plan and what I get involved in. So it's kind of like I have free reign to do what I want to do and to make my decisions for myself, which can be a bit scary at times, but I think it's really pushed me to be more independent and to just trust my gut and what I'm aiming for. She's also sometimes just, if you really want an opinion, she'll give you the honest, hard truth, which I think is a really valuable thing to have.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We've had a question from Rebecca. So I'll sort of summarise this one a little bit around what degrees did each of you undertake at university, and how relevant have you found that for this program? And if it wasn't relevant in particular, what other things made you relevant for this program, whether it was your lived experience or whatever else you undertook around sort of sport, active recreation and play sort of space as well. So a tough one, but anyone want to kick us off first?
Yeah, I'm happy to kick that one off. I'm probably the odd one of the bunch and of the alumni in general. So I studied geography and cultural anthropology at Victoria, which you might think that's a bit of a random segue into the sports sector, and I thought the same myself. But I do have that personal interest in sport and recreation and in well-being and as well. And I think because I did go through the process twice, and I think possibly what might have made me stand out the second time around was that I had gained some of that work experience within the sector in a relevant capacity. So I was working on a football program delivering to lower socioeconomic areas and to refugee families. And I think that's where I joined up the dots quite clearly between my interest in sport and the sports communities and my knowledge and ability to engage with different cultures and that real kind of people knowledge. So I think as long as you can clearly connect up those dots, it doesn't really matter what you studied as long as there is a connection that you can make.
Yeah, I agree with that. So a major part of the program is the induction. So the first 2 weeks that you start at Sport New Zealand, there's a scheduled induction. So we get to meet people leaders from all different teams in Sport New Zealand. So I think one part of my university studies that was really helpful was my knowledge of the sector. So I knew who regional sports trusts were, I knew who national sports organisations were. However, and I knew their relationships. However, in saying that, you do get a really good overview of a lot of that when you start at Sport New Zealand, and there is opportunity to engage more in areas that you don't quite understand. So I think that my degree was definitely useful, in particular my final 2 years where they're a bit more focused. So understanding the system, understanding processes, policy processes, understanding the value of physical activity and how it's different for many different people. So I think willingness to learn, in my opinion, is more important than what you already know. So willingness to learn and grow in those spaces, and also lived experience. So you could be the most knowledgeable person on the sports sector, but if you can't go and introduce yourself to a team leader, or you can't go and talk to HR about something, or you can't kind of discuss projects properly with different leads, you're not really going to get anywhere. So I think in my circumstance, I did a lot of volunteering and leadership, kind of got involved in leadership opportunities that gave me the confidence to be able to kind of, I knew I had the knowledge, but also to be able to share that and go to different hui's and meet different people. So I think there's a real balance between lived experiences and kind of the skills you gain from that and the knowledge you have. So I think you can always learn more, and you, I suppose in the same aspect, you can develop your confidence, but I think it's really important to have both.
Yeah, so for me, I studied at AUT and did a Bachelor of Sport and Recreation, double major in coaching and health and PE. And so through that, I kind of had a base level understanding of how the sport sector worked. I knew about NSOs, RSTs, and kind of their relationship. I think one of the big things for me is that while I was at university and even beforehand, I was more the grassroots person. I used to do a lot of interactions with tamariki through sport and physical activity, which I think was really important for me to understand those experiences. And I think my downfall was that, well, not downfall, but the things I didn't know was around policy and strategic planning and things along those lines. So that's been one of the big learning curves for me, understanding how that process works. So yeah.
Sorry, just to add on to that, I keep thinking of things as everyone's talking, but I think it's important to note that for if any of you are studying a BA or particularly something in the social sciences realm, that to really highlight your analytical and critical thinking skills, because I think those are things that are super valuable that a lot of people in the sports sector may not have or have experience in, especially in research and working with communities directly in your degree, if you have any of that experience.
Awesome, thank you. We touched on mentors a little bit, so I do want to go on to some questions around sort of the arms that are wrapped around you to help and support you. So we spoke a little bit earlier about graduate alumni and our graduate forum. So you guys were all able to attend year prior to joining the graduate program. So just want to get your thoughts and experience on either the grad alumni as a group or the graduate forum if you attended that last year as well, and sort of the support that you get from those guys. So for everyone, there's 14 strong graduates now that we've been heavily involved with. They're all supported still by Sport New Zealand on an annual basis to come back and collaborate and connect and come together. It's a really cool, unique opportunity to come together with some really awesome young minds, and I can say that because I know them all really well. So yeah, your experiences with either the forum or the graduate alumni individuals.
Yeah, I can start because mine will be short. So I didn't get to go to the graduate network last year because I was in a role where I wasn't able to get leave for that. So I didn't have that experience, but because I wasn't able to attend, a few of them reached out to me directly through Facebook. So we have a Facebook group, and then so you can keep up with each other on there, but then some of them messaged me directly. So that was really awesome, and I kind of felt like I was welcomed into the group already. So they're quite outgoing, and they're all really driven people. So we catch up meant to be every couple of months over Zoom, and we kind of set an agenda, really brief, but spend most of the time talking about challenges, opportunities, learnings, and it's really cool because you can share that amongst the group. So someone might be transitioning from a job looking for new opportunities, and then there might be an awesome opportunity in someone else's space. So everyone's in really exciting, awesome roles. So it's really cool to kind of, we can aspire to what they're doing, and we get really great advice. So Brittany, who was one of the graduates last year, I only met her through the recruitment process, so maybe talked to her for 15, 20 minutes at a time. And then I saw her last night because I'm in Auckland, and we caught up for 6 hours and just talked constantly about the graduate program, where she's gone now, maybe what could help, what I could be doing for the second half of the year. And then it's really cool even to reflect about the different opportunities we've had and the different experiences. And yeah, it's just really awesome to have other people that have experienced the same thing that you have, and we can really lean on them and their advice.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a really supportive group. And I think it's a cool aspect that they've kind of been through the experience, and we'll kind of see where they go. And they've all gone into different paths within the sports sector. So it's been really nice to talk to them about their experiences and kind of where they've gone from the graduate program. I think another important thing is too, they really challenge us. And we hold, within the whole group, we hold everyone accountable to our work and what we are doing, and some of the challenges or some of the solutions that we try to figure out while we're working. And so I think that's a really good relationship for us to have with them. And so we do keep in touch every 2-3 months, hopefully, depending on everyone's schedule. And that's a great opportunity just to see how everyone is going, and see what everyone's been doing since we last caught up. And with the graduate forum, for me, that was quite a daunting experience at first, because I was going into a conference with all these people who have been in Sport New Zealand and have gone out into the sector now, and I was still trying to figure out some of the protocols within Sport NZ, but they made me feel really welcome straight away. Came over, introduced themselves, kind of helped me out, and it's been a really great network to have within our Sport New Zealand whānau, so it's been good.
Yeah, Ivan and I think we got a lot out of that grad forum, and it was really amazing to meet everyone and have those friendly faces that were close to our age and had gone through the exact same thing before even stepping foot into the whole business side of things and getting into the role itself. And like they said, they are really supportive people, and not just on a surface level, we're all in this group, so we kind of have to like reach out to each other as just as a thing that we have to do. But they do it in a really genuine and open way, where they're happy to have a chat, and they're really invested in each other's successes and struggles. regardless of what it might be. And I bumped into Emma, one of the grads, at a house party, and she was genuinely keen to just chat about life and what was going on. So there's no fakeness or feelings of being forced to involve in this group. So it's awesome. Yeah.
Very cool. And we've got people in roles at the moment around sort of transformation project managers. We've got general managers out there at the moment. So these are some of the outcomes of the graduate program and where they're at over sort of a 4, 5, 6 year period. We've got marketing executives, we've got business owners and all sorts that have come through the program. So the program is really centered around sort of that leadership component and helping you to drive that. You yourself need to be able to drive that as well, to have that passion to be a future leader, and whatever that looks like for you, that's awesome. So those are just a couple of examples of where people have sort of gone to with their graduate program as well, which is really awesome. Another question actually from me, and do put them in the chat because we do have around 10 minutes left to have a bit of a discussion and a bit of a korero with you guys. But you mentioned, Libby, be careful what you say, challenge, use the word challenge. So I'll go off that word that you mentioned earlier. What are some of the challenges you guys have had as graduates coming on board, whether it be sort of relocating, whether it be getting projects and getting your feet dirty, whether it's figuring out this whole crazy world of Sport New Zealand, what it all means and piecing it all together, or just remembering names, because there's quite a few of us. So what have you guys found most challenging as new graduates coming on board?
For me, I think it's a good challenge to have is that there's so many great opportunities. So I find it really hard sometimes to kind of turn down something. It's not so much turning down something, it's saying that I don't have the capacity to kind of fully commit to that at the moment and give it the attention that it needs. So I find I'm getting better at it now, and I've got more clear on my priorities and kind of what areas I want to develop in. But at the beginning, someone would, and we've also got processes for this now, but someone would kind of offer a project here and I'd say, yep, that sounds awesome, I'll do that. And then I'd put on a project here, and then all of a sudden I had quite a lot of work to do and I didn't necessarily have the time to do it. So that was picked up really quickly by Fran and kind of squashed that, and we're now really clear on what I need to be spending my time doing and kind of having a clear thought process for choosing projects. But I think that's an awesome opportunity. I mean, an awesome challenge to have, that we have so many amazing opportunities that it's hard to choose between them. So it's a blessing and a challenge in one, I think.
Yeah, that's probably similar to me, actually. One of the biggest challenges, which is still a great thing, is that there's so many opportunities and there's so many influential people within the organization that you just want to be a part of it all. But having to keep in mind that you have to kind of prioritize what you want to do and what kind of skills you want to get out of each project really determines on what projects you do. And it's kind of hard to say no to some projects that sound great, but it's not kind of essentially where we want to go at the moment. So that's been quite a challenge. And then also a little bit for me would be relocation, just because on a personal level, I had to have surgery. So I don't have anyone in Wellington. So Sport New Zealand was really good in allowing me to have it up in Auckland. And so it's kind of been to and fro kind of in Wellington and Auckland for me at the moment. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I can fully move down to Wellington.
For me, I think a couple of things would be the challenge of sometimes feeling like I was not being heard, maybe due to age or maybe due to lack of experience in the sector, and people kind of assuming that I wouldn't have the knowledge or the ability, and just being able to learn to sort of speak up in those situations and give my opinion and give my thoughts and sort of be confident in knowing my ability. And yeah, that's a real challenging one, especially if you're like me and you're quite introverted and tend to be struggling in that sort of self-confidence space. But in terms of your work life, learning to know your strengths and really promote them on behalf of yourself is really important, and it's a big challenge that I've had so far. And kind of connected to that is the challenge of not having that content knowledge coming into the program. So not knowing about RSTs and NSOs and not knowing about the processes of Sport New Zealand and the processes of government and all those sorts of things. But just the learning curve of knowing that if you have the passion and the willingness to learn, that that's a barrier that you can overcome quite easily if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Lily. So yeah, touching on that and further to that is just the growth around both personal and professional growth as well. So you as a person will likely look, or you'll be the same person, but you will be very different when you leave the program as when you started. And a couple of individuals, they worked really closely with through the graduate program and connected with them really well, had that sort of confidence piece at the beginning and came out to being, they were presenting to the board at the end, which is just phenomenal. So you've got the heads of Sport New Zealand all in a room together, of the sports sector all in a room, and having to present to them. If I had said that to the individual when they first started, they would have gone, oh my gosh, I'm sick, can't do it. But by the end, they were confident, ready to go and ready to give their opinion, ready to say what they thought to these really high profile individuals, which is fantastic. So not just professional, but also personal growth you'll get along the way as well. We've got a question actually from Connor. Thanks, Connor, for your question. Kia ora, guys. How do you find the balance between wanting to discover and explore different spaces within the organisation and spending enough time on one area to grow and learn? So how do you sort of balance out lots versus just one sort of piece of the puzzle, really developing in one particular area? Have any of you got some experience in that at the moment?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I think we're all, that's probably the thing that we're all kind of navigating at the moment is that kind of having those big meaty projects that you're passionate about or that are really challenging for you, but also having those little things on the side that are kind of ticking away. Yeah, that's a hard one to answer. I don't think there's any one right way to do it. It's really just not, I think it would probably help if you knew kind of what you're hoping to get out of the first year and what you're hoping to get out of the second year, and potentially like looking towards a future career, having a rough idea of what space you want to be in or what skills you need to have to get there. So that should help you sort of balance how many projects and which things you give priority to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have kind of come up with a plan. So I talked a lot about this with the past graduates, which was really helpful. They also all kind of said it's up to you to determine how you do it, but gave advice. So the way I'm intending to work this year is I've got quite a broad range of projects the first 6 months. So really making those connections across the business. So when you leave the organisation, if you've kind of worked directly in one area, it's a little bit harder to lean on those connections if you haven't formed those or worked with a range of people. So I've kind of looked at the first 6 months. I'm going to work. I've got, I think, 3 or 4 major key projects which are kind of across the business. And then I get a better idea of maybe what I need to develop more. And so then I'll look to reflect on that and halfway through the year and kind of look for more projects that are going to be a bit more narrow or a bit more focused for the second half of the year. I might change my mind when I get there, but at the moment that's kind of my plan, and that I might, and it depends on the opportunities that are available as well in each kind of team. So Fran, my mentor, has encouraged me to kind of get amongst all the different teams, and that way you really learn what you like and also maybe what you're not so keen on, and that helps with your placements. Your placement decisions for next year. So it is a really hard one, and I don't think any of us have kind of got the answer for that yet, but I think it's really just kind of making a plan. And the way I'm looking at it is that I'll get a broad range of experiences this half of the year, and then if I feel I want to kind of really settle in and make a really big, or try and make a big impact in a specific area and really learn and develop, then I can do that in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I think also along with Lily and Libby, it's also you got to look at the timeline of the projects. So some projects go from now until the end of the year, others are only 1 or 2 months. So it's around kind of prioritizing your kind of timeline as well. So some projects, if you want to be a part of just for a month and get some skills there, then you can do that. Or if there's other projects where you can be a part of for longer, you can do that as well.
Awesome. Cool. Wonderful. Well, we've got about 3 minutes left at the moment, but we have come to the end of our questions in the chat. So thank you guys very much for your input and providing those through. If there's anything burning outside of this, so you're like, oh, I wish I had asked that, do send through an email to our careers inbox. It's inside of the Sport New Zealand website and under careers, and we can connect that way in terms of answering your questions or having a bit of a korero on the phone. I'm happy to have a bit of a yarn posted as well. But just wanted to say thank you guys so much for coming along. It's great to see your faces. Thank you to the three of you, Libby, Lily and Ivan, for your participation in this, and also your really diverse perspectives in terms of the experiences that you guys have been through as well. So applications, just a reminder, close on the 26th of May. We would absolutely love to see those come through. Do not forget to attach your cover letter, CV and your transcript as well. And we really look forward to connecting with you guys through this process as well. So thank you very much. All take care, and we will be in touch very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you later.